Hello, hello. So today gonna look at a VOD from Manchester team. Um, just quickly before we start, I've sent Gamago a link to some lessons I did for Warwick, and in lesson one we go over the structure of um, the three sort of types of comps and how they sort of work over time. So like the normal thing I like to describe is there's this graph, there's time on this axis, there's power on this axis, and then there are three different comps. You have dive, you have brawl, and you have poke. Poke comps are less common these days, just because of the 5v5 format, but they still sort of applicable. So we have these three different power graphs. So in this, the purple one is dive. So it basically shows these sort of bursts in power, and then these sort of diminishes in power. So these this is when like a monkey dives with bubble, Genji dashes, deflects, Kiriko Suzu, amp, that sort of stuff. And then down here is when those cooldowns have been used. And then the blue one is poke, so their sort of power remains mostly the same. They don't have any big abilities, so this is like a Sigma, a Hanzo, a Mercy pocketed, thing. They don't have any big abilities, but their power is sort of constant over time. And then we have the last one, the yellow one, is Brawl, and Brawl sort of their power starts off quite high and then it sort of diminishes over time. This is when their cooldowns are being used a lot. So this is like Ryan Shield, HP from the comp, May Wall, May Ice, Lamp, Amp, and their sort of power goes down over time. So the why this is useful to think about is to think about what sort of win conditions your team is looking for, right? So like for the dive, they want to sort of do have these really big power spikes, but then they also want to make sure that they don't die during these off times. So like if you're playing brawl with the dive, you want to absorb these sort of high power spikes and then punish these low spikes. Whereas if you're dive, you would want to do multiple of these power of these dives. So over time the brawl will get weaker and weaker, and then your dives will become more effective as you force more stuff out. So just looking at the two comps we have here, they're both dive comps, but I would say this one is more. You've also got a lot more pokes sort of here, right, as well. You've got Echo and Mercy, so you're playing more of a slower comp, whereas these guys are playing like, basically dive. They got the Lucid, they got the Kiriko backline. So if we're looking at the power graph, your comp is still a dive, so it'll have like these sort of things, but their comp will be sort of like that, right? They'll have bigger highs, but they'll have greater lows. So what you want to do is you probably want the fight to go on you want the fight to go longer, right? So that you can get value from your Mercy and your Echo, or Mercy Sojourn, whichever one you're pocketing. And they want to be diving your Mercy. They want to be getting these kills onto the Mercy, onto the Sojourn, onto the Kiriko. So what that basically means is that simply is that you just want to be absorbing their dive before looking. So you want to be poke them out before their dive, stop their setup. So if it's like there's like steps here. So let me just go back to the beginning. So the first step in like countering a dive is scouting. So that's knowing where the enemy is coming from. And then once you've scouted, so that's the first step, scouting. Then the second step is pressuring. So you want to be shooting them, making sure that when they do dive, they don't have their full HP, they don't have all their cooldowns, stuff like that. The third step is absorbing their dive, so using your own cooldowns, Whereas, maybe that's flash heal on the Mercy, fly on the Echo, slide on the Surgeon, TP Suzu there, defense matrix. So you want to absorb their dive, then you want to rotate, whether that's aggressively rotate or rotate into sort of a safer space. So for example here, the monkeys dived in, you've used Suzu to absorb their dive. So maybe you want to rotate into the monkey and kill him because he's sort of by himself. Or maybe that's rotate into their backline. Or maybe that's sort of if there's like, let's say there's a Cassidy here, maybe that's an aggressive rotate into their cast, right? So we're going to be looking at a couple fights. I've already, this is just going to be a shorter VOD, so we're only going to be looking at a couple fights. So, especially looking at this map, there are like 3 lanes to this map, right? You have this lane here, you have this lane here, and you have this lane here. And what you don't want them to allow them to do is to give up a lane for free. So this lane here is not too important, right? It's easily markable, but this lane here is really important because they can send the flanker, their Tracer, or their Kiriko, or their Tracer and Lucio down this lane and sort of dive, right? They want to dive you from different angles. They don't want to all come from the same place, otherwise that would be really easy to absorb. So what I want to see here is the normal setup for your sort of comp here. You have the D.Va on the high ground. You would have the Sojin probably somewhere down main or on the high ground as well, and the Echo playing on between these high grounds here, so just flying between them. And then I would sort of want the Kiriko to be playing between this area, and this area, because the Kiriko is really good at marking these flank routes. That's the only really person on the team that can do it. So if we just play from here, right? We'll go over to the next. Right. Okay, this is reset, right? So yeah, you try and push after the dive, but it doesn't work. So you have to go back. So at this point here, because you're still playing a dive comp, you don't want to be fully stacked on top of each other, right? If you're fully stacked, it gives them space, like map control, basically. So wait, I don't even know where your Sojin is. Where is your Sojin? Yeah, so your Sojin, Echo, like you're all stacked on that high ground. It means there's only sort of one angle. You got the Kiriko on a bit of an angle here, but not really. But you can see what's going to happen here is because you're all stacked together here, it allows this Lucio Tracer to sort of take the flank. And the Tracer, the Lucio is back, but the Tracer takes it, right? So, and then because of that, you've given up all your space, right? You've now given up you've given up the high ground control and you've given up the lane control here. So ideally, like this corner is really hard for them to get past, right? So you want the D.Va to be back on the high. Whether the Sojin stays main, I don't really mind. It's a fine angle, right? And she has slide ability, but you need the Kiriko to be taking. You wanted her to be on like a deeper angle here, or even dueling the Tracer, right? You don't want this Tracer getting this free engage. She's just here by himself. Lucky your Echo does do a good job of poking and forcing recall, which is good. But still, they've taken like 1, 2, 3 angles on you, which is gonna sort of lead to the fight loss, right? And I need a D.Va as well. Like it's good to peel on D.Va, but there's also, you can do other stuff on D.Va as well. Like if the D.Va's on this high ground, the monkey jumps in, you can then mark their backline. You can go for the Kiri, stop the Kiri from healing, right? Because like let's say, just give an example, right? Let's say the monkey dives in here, and then your entire team, so you got your Kiriko, you got your Sojin, you got your Mercy here, and they can all shoot the monkey. And if your D.Va's marking their backline, 1, their Sojin can't shoot, 2, their Kiriko can't heal, or they have to force cooldowns to go in, right? So we covered a bit there. So the main things to take away here is, especially on your sort of dive poke comps, you want to scout, you want to pressure, force cooldowns before the dive, absorb the dive, and then look for something aggressive or rotate sort of into a better position. And then also making sure you don't stack, allowing map control to the dive team. Because you still have the mobility to control space. You just want like a longer fight, you know. So that means controlling this lane, stopping the tracer from taking a position here, keeping control of high ground, and not stacking when they dive, right? So you don't have to, like, you got the Echo Muzzle here, which is good. So could have the Sojourner survived that dive? Maybe. We can have a little look actually. What happens to the Sojourner? So Sojourner dives, we just, see, the reason he dies there is because the Tracer is unmarked. It just gets that Blake here for free, right? So controlling lanes is really important. That's what costs you this fight. And then also D.Va here. Imagine D.Va just like on the Kiriko. You can see the Kiriko is hitting the monkey right now. And you want to be stopping cart as well, right? You don't want to be, once the cart gets around the corner, it becomes a lot harder to defend. So you would have wanted the D.Va here dropping onto point, marking their Kiriko, Tracer, Lucio here, and then your team should be fine. Imagine your Sojourner's alive here. That monkey shouldn't be able to live too much longer by himself. So. Okay, let's go on to the next fight. Sorry. Okay. We'll watch this next fight. So again, this is similar, right? You want your Echo control on the high ground. You want probably your Kiriko could be playing a bit by herself as well. Maybe looking for flanks over the roof here. Is really good as well, finding some value against their team. You don't really want the Kiriko and the Mercy stacked on top of each other, because one, it means that, let's say the Kiriko's here, the Mercy's here, the monkey can zap both of you at the same time, which is not good, and then it becomes harder for the Kiriko to heal the Mercy. Do you ever want your Kiriko really to stack on your Mercy? Okay, let's look from here. Alright, so this fight here, what happens?
This ends.
There's
now.
a desync from the team, right? So what happens is that the core here pushes back, but then your Sojourner goes for this really risky flank, right? So there are situations where you can do this to what they call baiting, right? You're baiting the team to sort of dive into you, and then you go for this flank play. But why this doesn't work, there's two reasons why this doesn't work. One is that their team hasn't actually committed to the fight. And two, your team hasn't, if they do this, they need to walk up fast, right? And without a Lucio, it's really hard to walk up fast. So these bait plays, you really need to let them fully engage onto your team before going for it. Because what you're going to see now is that their entire team can sort of convert on, like, you got 4 people looking at the Sojourner right now. And she's just died. She dies instantly because of that. Because she goes for this play to bait. She's like hoping that the team baits onto her and she gets a free clock behind. I wouldn't go for these plays in these comps too much, unless you're at like a big disadvantage, like ult disadvantage. I haven't talked too much about ultimates. We'll cover the neutrals to begin with, but maybe in like the last 5 minutes we'll just do that quickly. But yeah, so like again here, like you're just looking to deny these rotate. Like I think this is a really strong comp versus their comp, right? The D.Va's really good into the Sojourner, to the monkey, but you don't need to do anything too fancy. You just need to control high grounds and control their flank routes, making sure they don't get around you. So this is like the first mistake there, and then that mistake leads to ults being invested. So your Echo gets a good flank there, right? But like the reason the Echo can kind of do it a bit more than the Sojourn is that the mobility, right? The mobility factor, and your team is right here to help you, right? Whereas the Sojourn was here and your team was back here. You don't have the mobility to get back to your team, and your team doesn't have the mobility to get to you. Whereas here, your Sojourn took the high ground, that they don't see them coming as well. This is the big thing. Like, they don't know you're there, and your team is right here to help you. So, like, stuff like that is completely fine. Whereas, like, it's going to be, and your Mercy already has been on the Echo, right? Okay, then you use Kitsu to finish off the fight. It's fine. You use Falcon as well, which is not great. You don't really want to be stacking support because it sort of leaves you open to their supports, because they have now the big support advantage. Yeah, that monkey not dying there is a big problem. He needed to die there. And then, he just gets randomly picked. It's not great. Yeah, and then they beat engage, and then this becomes really hard without ultimates. And then you just sort of lose the fight. So yeah, so like if you're looking for these flank engages, like just to go back, just to clarify this as well, what happened there was that their team was like around here, your team was here, and the Echo went above and round, right? So they were baited into your team, and you're close enough for your team to help you, right? So you got a nice like sort of pick there, whereas the Sojourn was here and their team was here, 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 and your team was here, and then you're just going to get collapsed on before the fight even begins. So you want to make sure when you go for these flanks, they have at least walk forward. Oh, that's now a really thick pen. Just talking about ultimates. So they have they have better ults than you. That's the only. So you probably have the better neutral, but they have better ultimates. Their B and the Kitsu is better than your Kitsu and Valk. So what I mean don't stacking ultimates is you want to what you call it, it's called layering ultimates. So let's say this is like okay, this is like, so this side is your team and this side is their team, right? Let's say, so here, right? So we can just go into like neutral. So like this, they get a kill onto you, so they get an advantage. You get a kill onto them, so it's now even. Then you use your Kitsu, so you get a big advantage. And then, but then again, you use your Valk as well. So you use two ultimates to gain you a big advantage, but they sort of they're not that additive, right? These two arrows, like if this is the power, don't make a big arrow. It makes like a slightly bigger arrow, right? And then instead what you want to do is, let's say then they use one of their ultimates. Let's say they use beat, then you want to use your Valk, right? Then let's say they use their overclock, then you can use you can use their copy. Imagine you had that, but like you don't want to be stacking ultimates. You want to be layering them. So like you want to be kitsuing first, then let's say they use something else, then you want to layer in another ultimate with that. But if you stack ultimates together, it diminishes the value you get from ultimates. So like we've talked about the sort of neutral, we've talked about the ultimates a little bit. I would say this is like comfy. This is your comp that you're going to be running with. It's definitely doable. It's just about making sure that especially versus dive, we talked the four steps. Also additionally, if you're playing it against Brawl, it becomes a little bit different, right? This isn't really a Brawl map, so it's kind of hard to say, but yeah, Brawl will be different. I'll just quickly cover that. You just have to abuse your mobility, and then you have to go for more divey. You have to lean into your dive a little bit more, right? So you have to. So your Mercy Sojourn will be looking to pressure their front line, and you would want their Diva and your Echo to be sort of on high ground, catching them on their rotates, right? So Brawl is really weak in rotates. That's when you want to be sort of diving them. So like. This is a hyperbole, of course, because like teams won't do this. But like, imagine a Brawl team walks all the way around here to the point, which is, I guess, kind of what they would be doing, right? Unless they go up high, but you would want to be hitting them on the bridge, right? Whether that's, you know, your diva here, your Sojourn here, your Echo here, and you want to be sort of forcing cooldowns as they walk through. Maybe you have another hit down here, and then maybe you have another hit on point. So you would have had 3 hits, which is like dives onto point, using their resources up. They're not really, you know, when playing dive, they will always they might look for angles, which you need to care. But your main job isn't, you're not absorbing anything. You're the ones looking to force them to absorb stuff. I hope this makes sense. I use a bit of sort of some terminologies that you might not be familiar with. If you have any questions, ask Gamago, or get him to ask me. If you have questions, you can get him to send me questions. But yeah, hopefully I explained the meanings of the words that I used. But yeah, it's this is just a short VOD, so we can't go too much in depth. I try to be sort of quick and succinct about it. And it's just, this is sort of one map, but every map will have these sort of lanes, and every map will have some sort of probably high ground control you can abuse. Well, most maps anyway. Not all maps have high grounds, but especially maps that are good dive maps will. But yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.